Yes, yes. You got it. Interaz is here. Very good. Hare Krishna. Long time no see. Yes, you guys have heard Mukunda. He's always telling you all to move up, and every week you disobey him. So please come. 523. Chapter 5, verse 23. So, yes, let's do the happiness formula.
There's some more things to set off here.
Because most of us don't want unhappiness, but unfortunately, depending on the formula we live our life by, that's the result. You know, in math, what do they call this? Right, input and output. What you input into the formula, you're going to get the output. No problem. You can't. You know, Jesus has a similar input-output formula. He says a good tree will bear what? And a bad tree will bear what? He also says something similar to gardening, is we reap what? What we sow. So what you put in to your life is going to be the output that you get. This makes sense to everyone, right? Is anyone here like, no, I don't get that at all. I want to do silly things and I want to get wonderful results. Right? This is our idea. But this is not a good idea. So anyhow, 523 of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Come on in. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Very good. And that means what? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev. Vasudev means the all-expansive Lord, the Lord within the heart, within the fabric of every piece of creation and existence. But also Vasudev is indicating Krishna, who is known in the world at the time as the son of Vasudev, or son of Vasudev, Vasudev. So, are you ready for the happiness formula? Okay. It's not what you think. We actually do the exact opposite of this, thinking it'll give us happiness, but it's actually the unhappiness formula. So let's do the happiness formula. It's 523. Shaknoti haivaya sodhum praksharida vimokshanat kama krodhod bhavam vegam Sayukta sasuki naraha. Anyone want to give it a try? No, go for it. Shaknoti haiva yasodham praksharida vimokshanat Kama krodhod bhavam vegam Sayukta sasuki naraha. Any lady want to give it a try? Where's Meghna? Meghna's not here? Oh, you're right in front of me. Go for it, Meghna. Saknoti haivaya shodham praksharida vimokshanat kama krodhod bhavam vegam sayukta sasuki naraha. Very good. Shaknoti, able to do. Iha eva, in the present body. Yaha, one who. Sodhum, to tolerate. Prak, before. Sharira, body. Vimokshanat, giving up. Kama, desire. Krodha, anger. Udbhavam, generated from. Vegam, urge. Saha, he. Yukta, in trance. Saha, he. Sukhi, happy. Nara, human being. Okay. So now, just to leave you all in suspense, I have a really terrible quality about myself, where once I start speaking, I just want to keep speaking, and so it's it gets me in trouble, and it gets you who have to listen in trouble. So one of the ways I can control this urge to just keep speaking is first use my speaking power to glorify the Gurus and pray that I may say something that's in alignment with them, and then ultimately in alignment with God, who is presenting this Bhagavad Gita to us. So, without further ado, if you want to go, it's on page 1 with the prayers I'm going to chant, and we can chant these prayers together to the Sanskrit if you want, or you can just kind of meditate, kind of get into it. Your call. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ravina Bhagavatam Amsajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishya Panditamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Namosute Tata Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhani Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Yo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Varavani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shanyavari Kashtate Deshatarine. Very good. All right, happiness formula. So you can repeat after me. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and is happy in this world. Very good. Purport from Swami Srila Prabhupada. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, the forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses in the mind is called Goswami, or Swami. Such Goswamis live strictly controlled lives and forego altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. All right. So this verse has some context. And if we go to verse 21, 2 verses previously, it goes, Bhayasparshesh Vashaktatma Vindatyatmani Yatsukam Sabrama Yoga Yuktatma Sukam Akshayam Ashnute. It's talking about a liberated person who is successful in karma yoga. He's not attracted to material sense pleasure or external objects, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. And then it says, an intelligent person is yehi samsparshaja boga dukayonaya evate aryantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. And then our verse we did today, before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and is happy in this world. So the last verse kind of tells us where we're making the fatal flaw, where we're making a mistake. What are the sources of misery? What did it say? Who remembers? Material things, including what? What is our faculties for measuring material things? The senses, yes. It's the material senses. There are spiritual senses as well. So it's contact with the material senses. And we've been living by the unhappiness formula. We've made our whole life trying to engage the senses with the sense objects. That's what we've always done for happiness. And it's actually been a fatal mistake, because what is the result of that instead? Yes, suffering, misery. And then Krishna explains why in this verse. Because such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. Because when they come, then they go. And then you're feeling a lacking or a longing for them. But we're not that intelligent. Albert Einstein, he had a famous quote that an insane man does what? Yes, he does the same thing over and over again, but he expects a different result. This is like us. We think, oh, my tongue feels craving. Let me go satisfy my tongue. And then we eat and eat and eat, and no problem. And then we say, oh, what is another sense? Another one popular, especially young people. The lower parts of the body are feeling a craving. So let me go engage that part of the body with whatever it wants. We have kids in the room, so I'll lead that to the imagination. And then we do that. And then we say, oh, well, maybe let me engage my tongue again. And then we just keep alternating. Maybe something for my eyes. Maybe I should see something pretty. Maybe something for my ears. Maybe I should listen to something. Maybe I should engage my senses with this. Maybe I should engage my senses with that. And we try over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what we never get? Yeah, we never get happiness. We get a little bit of a flicker. Ooh, the ice cream, it tastes good. And then it's like 20 seconds and then that's it. It's over. Finished. The same thing with, the impetuses of the lower parts of the body. The same thing with, watching your Netflix show. As soon as it's over, you're like, oh, you're feeling defeated and loss of purpose. Movies, so on. But this is our problem. But actually, the yogi does the opposite thing. He controls the urges of the senses. Rupa Goswami, in his Upadeshamrita, he took, I think, the 11 most important instructions, and he condensed all the essence of spiritual life that he found in the Shastras. And he condensed it into the Upadeshamrita. It's a little book we have called The Nectar of Instruction. Srila Prabhupada has translated into English for us. But the first verse, do you guys know it? We've done it before here. Vacha vegam manasakroda vegam Jiva vegam ururapasta vegam Etan vegam yovishaheta diraha Sarvam apimam prithivim sashishya. So vacho, vegam, what is vacho? Yes, to speak. Vegam is the urge to speak. We have to control. We always want to talk, and we don't even have anything so useful to say most of the time. We just want to yap and yap and yap and yap. But actually, in the Vedas, it's compared to like a frog. Frogs like to croak and croak and croak. You've gone outside at the certain times of the year, and the frogs are just croaking. You've heard? Yes. Actually, when the frogs just croak and croak and croak, they're inviting someone very nice for them. Who are they inviting? Yes, the snake. The snake is the predator for the frog. They just... They love to hear themselves croak and croak and croak, and next thing you know, the snake is coming. Oh, I know exactly where you are. So it's compared when we just speak and speak and speak about nonsense, we're inviting death coming sooner and sooner and sooner to ourselves. And ultimately, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our life. We're just croaking and croaking away and not speaking of anything meaningful. So we're not, in this verse, you might be able to take a principle of renunciation. Well, the yogi says, don't use my senses at all. But that's actually not what Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita. He's not teaching don't speak. He's not teaching even don't use the tongue, don't use the belly, don't use the genitals, don't use the mind, don't let it think. Don't get angry. That's not what Krishna is teaching, actually. He's teaching a principle called yukta vairagya. Does anyone know what that is? Vairagya is renunciation, getting rid of everything. But there's yukta vairagya. And it comes from a higher teaching given in the Bhagavad Gita. You give up anything that cannot be used favorably in service to the Lord. Starting with karma yoga and then through jnana yoga, culminating in bhakti yoga. This is actually... So for instance, laptops, technology, no, give them up. Does that make sense? They have all kinds of bad effects. Do you see what they're doing to the kids nowadays? I'm sorry, kids, if I'm going to get you guys your tablet time taken away or something. But it's ruining a generation of children. They're just lost in these screens. Why? Because they see us doing it. And next thing you know, they're just lost in these screens. All they want to do is spend all day on the video game or, playing the tablet or this, that, and the other thing. So it makes sense. We should get rid of this thing, right? Some are saying yes. Not necessarily. If it can be used in the Lord's service, it's good. This is the skilled use of a yogi. I'm reading to you the Shastra from a tablet and a screen. And we're recording online. If anyone else wants to read the Shastras online, they can also. So actually we can use it in devotional service. So it doesn't necessarily need to be thrown away. I'm about to have a baby, so actually my baby is not going to have very much allowance for the screens. That's not something I'm too interested in because I'm very fearful of what that could implicate later on for the child and even my life. But when it is inevitably time I have to teach them to use these things, we'll try to humbly teach them how to use in the spirit of service. So this is what yukta vairagya is. Not that we just get rid of everything. So now, you'd have to look at that verse again, vacho vegam, the urge to speak. So we realize not just being quiet. There wouldn't be very good of a class or any type of teaching ever in your life if everyone was just quiet the whole time. We would all just learn to just be quiet, which would be fine. It would be better than just yapping like a frog. But there's something better we can do with our words. And what's that? Chanting, yes. What are we chanting? Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Is this type of chanting, Tanmay? No. What type of chanting? Chanting Hare Krishna. What's so special about Hare Krishna? Yes. The words are special. Why? Because they're indicating the Lord. They're indicating the Supreme. They're indicating the highest truth. This is why we should chant Hare Krishna. But using the words in your words to glorify the Lord or to connect to the Lord at all, this is yoga actually. That's what yoga means, to connect to the Supreme, to connect to a higher. So actually, we're not trying to just stop. And you can be happy this way. This is the source of happiness. When we just want to speak because there's too much silence and it's making us all uncomfortable, and so like, well, let me talk about politics, or let me talk about this, or let me talk about that. If it's not connecting to the higher thing, ultimately it's just causing misery. One, to the person who has to hear you yet, or you have to hear someone else yet, or, ultimately what you talk about doesn't give any real solution to the burning miseries that we're all experiencing in different forms in this world. So ultimately, we want to speak illuminating knowledge. We want to speak about the Lord, about the Lord's teachings, about the process of how to go closer to the Lord. That's what speaking's pretty good for. Otherwise, it's just, in your practical daily duties, let's just say you have to get here, there, and the other thing, you can tell someone, all right, but to do your basic duties, to tell the kids what they need to do, their practical duties. Not that like, all right, unless I say the word God, I cannot speak at all. We have to be a little intelligent to learn how to speak. But ultimately, unless it's speaking for a higher purpose and ultimately to connect to the Lord, even your daily duties, you do your daily duties hopefully to maintain a spiritual life. Many of us, we go to work, we have bills to pay, we have so many things we have to do this. But if it's maintaining so that we can have a spiritual life, it's useful. Otherwise, if it's just maintaining that we can have all kinds of comforts to enjoy our material senses, what kind of formula is that? We just talked about it. Unhappiness, yeah, it's a formula for misery. So really, it's a useless endeavor that we're doing. We work all week, 40 hours a week, just to set up a life of unhappiness for ourselves. Does that sound good? Did you think of when you were a kid? We have some kids in the room. What are your names back there?
Kabir.
What's that?
Kabir.
Kabir. Urjun. You guys, how old are you?
11.
11.
8.
8. Wow, very nice. You guys are very well spoken. So when you grow up, do you guys want to be happy or unhappy?
Happy.
Happy or unhappy? Good. And they said happy. Yes. So when you were all kids, did you grow up and you think, I want to be unhappy in this world? No. But actually, a lot of us, we grew up and that's exactly what we became. Was unhappy. Why? Because we don't know the formula to happiness. And Krishna is teaching us the formula for happiness. And it's not what society is teaching us. Society is very readily encouraging a formula for unhappiness. But happiness isn't about getting the things of your senses. They actually cause you misery. Getting the money, getting the house, getting this, getting that, getting the perfect partner, getting all the food that you can enjoy. We think this will cause us happiness. It actually does the opposite. It does the opposite. And yet, this is what we live our life chasing. So just like these young little boys, they want to grow up and be happy. And when we were kids, we wanted to grow up and be happy. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, we didn't come across the right information on how to be happy. So Bhagavad Gita, if we all were taught Bhagavad Gita for a young age, if Kabir and Arjun were raised and continue to be raised understanding Bhagavad Gita, taking it deeply, they can grow up and be happy. Otherwise, Krishna says, this world is dukkalaya. It's a miserable world. And guess what kind of people live in a miserable world? Yeah, kripanas, misers are miserable people. Don't be this. You have a rare opportunity, actually, where you don't have to be miserable. It says only 2 types of people can be happy in this world in the Bhagavatam. Do you know who they are? Yes. The enlightened sage and the greatest fool. The greatest fool can be happy in this world. Like you can imagine going, Syracuse is renowned for its drinking capacity. No school can drink more than Syracuse can drink, apparently, according to Barstool Sports. If this is an accredited source, I don't know. But no school can drink like Syracuse. So when you go out and you see them on the bar, and they're like, yeah, woo! They're so happy in that moment. But if you have just a smidgen of intelligence, you cannot be happy doing like that. Just a little, all you need is a little intelligence, and you're just not going to be able to be happy like that. To be intoxicated. Intoxicated means to poison the body. Only a fool would poison the body. But yes, we live in a society of fools, where they glorify the culture of intoxicating oneself. Let's poison the body this way. No, I'm going to poison it this way. And then it's just like a competition to poison the body in elaborate different ways. It's insane, actually. But a fool can be happy that way. But you're not a fool, actually. You wouldn't be here if you're a fool. If you have just a little smidgen of like a higher search for truth, you'll never be able to be happy that way. And just try it. Go out with them sometime. I actually don't really recommend that. But if you want to learn firsthand how miserable it is, just go out with them and watch them all try to enjoy foolish things. And you just will be miserable. You'll not be able to be happy. I learned about Bhagavad Gita. I wanted to tell all my friends. I was like kind of innocent, 22, 23. So I would go out to the bars with them and they're all drinking and I would try and, corner just one person and just like, come on, let's have a deep conversation about life and philosophy. And they're just like, shut up. Just please. Just shut up. Just take this. It'll make you happy. And I'm like, no, that's the whole thing. It doesn't make us happy. And they don't want to hear that. So you gotta let them go. But you can't do that. You can't have that insanity to like just keep doing the same things over and over again and expect maybe I'll be happy if I do it this time. It never made me happy before. It never will make you happy in the future. But let me just try again. Maybe just if I do it like this. No, it doesn't work that way. There's a formula to happiness. Just like many of you are students here, correct? Okay, well you're in the biggest drinking school in the country. So, drinking seems fun. Everyone seems very happy doing this activity. Why study? Study's boring. Study? Oh my gosh. Why study? What's the benefit of that? You could be out having fun with everyone else. Right, Sohan? Does that sound like a good time? No studying and just having fun all the time. How well will you do in your classes like that?
I won't be able to do anything.
Yes, it won't work. And so then maybe you'll fail. And then you'll maybe get kicked out of school. So how happy will you be then?
Not at all.
No, you won't be happy. See how that works? If you take some discipline in your study, then you can get a much better result than the person who says, no, what do you mean this discipline? We could have fun now. This makes sense? Professional athletes are so good at their profession, right? And a lot of times, instead of all the fun and the partying, they were training. Anyone ever work out? Like really give it a good workout? Tanmay, he's sitting back there, large and in charge. He's telling, yes. I work out. Does it feel good?
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels good. I was going to say no, it doesn't. Like when I do push-ups after a while, I'm like, oh, this really hurts. And when you put crushing amounts of weight over top of your body, you're like, I could die, But, at the end, after doing the discipline, you feel good. You feel like, yes, I've done something better for myself. So this is what the yogi does. They recognize happiness in the long term by refraining from the senses. Or, even better, using the senses for its highest purpose. And that's in yoga. And that's connection to God. So that verse we just chanted, the Bhagavad Gita verse, it says, before giving up this body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and is happy in this world. And then Prabhupada actually, in the purport, he was talking in English about the same verse I chanted, Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam. So Vacho, speaking. And he explains, when he translates out this Upadeshamrita, how we should only speak of topics of the absolute truth, and which ultimately will culminate in Krishna and Krishna consciousness. This is the perfection of Vacho. This is the perfection of how to use your faculty to speak. And you can be happy this way. Actually, you'll see, the reason I don't shut up is because I'm very happy talking about Krishna and Krishna consciousness. And then if there's no opportunity for it, then I'm like a little like, we got to figure out a way to talk about Krishna again. So yeah, you believe, I guarantee you, if you start talking of Krishna, it becomes addicting. And it's not just me. It's like, this guy found something. It's well known if you hear Harikatha. People who speak Harikatha, they're well known for never stopping on time. Because they just like to keep speaking and keep speaking and keep speaking. Prabhupada's guru, Bhakti Siddhanta, they would sit and they would gather and he would invite hundreds of people. And he would just speak for 5 hours straight. Just 5 hours. I won't do that to you. I'll speak for 1 hour. But 5 hours straight of just speaking, because he's getting so much pleasure out of it. Also, he was, the words of a sadhu like him, he would evaluate every single person in the room, and he's like, I have to cut this one's ignorance. And he would say exactly the thing that needed to be said to cut the ignorance. He was so skillful at reading the physiognomy of all the faces in the room and understanding what needs to be said to lift this person out of their what's called anartha, or their blockage, to be able to reach a higher state. So this is a very skilled thing that I'm not very good at. But I still have to say something. I have to try. So vacho vegam manasa, the mind. Krishna talks about this. The highest teaching of Bhagavad Gita is what? What verse? There's 2 verses with 2 lines. Yes. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Offer your worship and your homage unto me. And then later he says, thus shall surely come to me. But this is the main teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Engage the mind in me. That's why we do mantra. We chant the Maha Mantra. Tanmay was talking about chanting the Maha Mantra. The reason we chant the Maha Mantra, because mantra is a technology. What does mantra mean? Sanskrit for mantra. I heard something.
Money's mind and troubles.
Yes, tra is free. It's a technology to free the mind. The mind is causing us so much suffering. It's thinking of so many things, and it's thinking of so many desires that are causing us misery. Because it's thinking like, oh, I need this, or I need that, and it's in anxiety because it doesn't have that. But actually, if we engage the mind in the Lord, guess what? We already have the Lord. We have everything we need. We could be satisfied. That's wonderful. And then the Lord, He gives everything. And Jesus very famously says a very famous verse. My dad says it all the time. He says, Aaron, you probably know, seek ye first
the kingdom of God.
and
I don't know, when people put me on the spot, I can't remember.
all other
I
things
don't remember what my
shall be added
is
unto
right
you.
now.
No, that's good. No problem. But you still knew exactly what it was. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added unto you. So all the other things your mind is thinking about, if you just put it on God, He's the reservoir of all those things. He will give everything that's necessary. Not one bit less and not one bit more. He'll give you everything that you need. Actually, it's a huge relief. Because, especially, men of the house, me and my wife, we like to practice a lot of traditional roles. We find it to be very helpful for ourselves. I worry about a lot of the finances and this, that, logistics, and she's very much engaged, like right now in the back. I think she must be doing something with some type of organizing or maintaining the home nicely. So in that, sometimes I get a lot of mental stress. But what really helps me is I just say, you know what? I'm just going to focus on Krishna and He will take care of everything. And I swear to you, every time something really is important, some crazy arrangement somehow brings it to my attention just in the nick of time. And we're able to figure it out. And it's like, all right, that was good. We moved through it. All other things are added unto you, no problem. You don't have to have any worry, actually. So anyway, vacho vegam, manasa kroda vegam. What's kroda? Anger. Well, you can't use anger for God, right? Oh, you can. This is Bhagavad Gita. You can't fight. He's telling Arjuna to fight. You can't fight without anger. How are you going to fight someone and not be angry? You cannot do it. But he's telling him to fight, but for a higher cause. So what is worth getting angry over?
Someone blaspheming Gurudev or devotees?
Yeah, that's a very valid thing to get angry over. It's the 2 things to be angry over is someone's blasphemy of God and blasphemy of God's dear representatives, the God's messengers, the devoted, the saints, the sages, like that. You don't have to maybe use violence. There are classes of people who can use violence. We met a very nice boy yesterday. He's in the army. And guess what? Part of his job is to be able to use violence. Police officers, part of their job, they have to use violence. Sometimes it's the best thing to do is use violence. If we had someone come in the room and he started putting a gun to everyone's head, and then Tanmay in the back snuck up on him and beat his head in, we would all celebrate Tanmay. That was a very skillful use of violence. We'd be very happy. Right? So like this, there is a way to use violence, but violence should be reserved only for those who are harassing the Lord's dear people, the innocent. That's what a Kshatriya is. You've heard of a Kshatriya? Kshatriya means to protect the innocent. That's what a Kshatriya does. They protect the innocent. So police officers, army officers, like this. Now,
I don't think that says that you should be angry though, even when you're using violence.
Well, it's impossible.
Now it's possible.
I don't know.
Yudhishthira did it, Krishna did it.
But Yudhishthira often, he wasn't the angry one, and he wasn't so engaged. But
well, he was the leader of the army, so
that's
he
right.
was in the violence.
Yeah, but he was very skillful, but Bhim was the most of the one doing the violence, and he was quite angry. And then Arjuna also, he was most of the one, and also had to be. But I remember Prabhupada mentions in a few different places that you have to be able to use anger skillfully. There is a way. Like Hanuman, he's the prime example on how to use anger. He went to Ravan's camp, right? And he got so angry at Ravan and everything they did. And after he located Sita, how are you going to burn down a city not angry? Like, I'm just going to...
I don't think he was angry after it.
Yeah.
He was actually laughing when he was doing it.
He was laughing, but I don't know if you ever gotten a fight before. Sometimes you'll laugh. There's like a chivalry laugh, but it's very angry. You're like trying to you cannot harm somebody without anger. But there's righteous reasons to get angry. And in Bhagavad Gita, this is talking about this. But, I can say at least, they're the forces of talk, forces of anger. Let me see if he says it here. But if you read the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada talks about Hanuman's proper use of anger. And even Arjuna's proper use of anger in the Bhagavad Gita. But anyhow, only anger for the Lord. Lakshman, for instance. He was well known for his anger.
Like Ram was.
Yeah, but Ram wasn't.
But he still did violence.
Yes, but Ram also, he also would get angry, but he was much more composed than Lakshman. But still, even Lakshman is glorified for his devotion to Ram and getting angry at anyone who would come against Ram. No one is saying, well, Lakshman should not have done that. So like that, there is a skillful use of anger, whereas Yudhishthira and Ram were like the masters of how to only use anger in very select circumstances. And then also, even more importantly, they would always exercise forgiveness as long as it was possible. But that's a whole nother thing. But anyhow, Vacha Vegam Manasa, the mind, engaged in the Lord. Krodha, anger in the Lord. Jiva, the tongue. This one's the biggest one. Everyone here likes to eat. It's like the most... it is the most voracious, the most ravenous sense that we have. It's said in Kali Yuga, if you at the end of the day eat a good meal, all other problems go away. You're just like, all right, I'm satisfied. In Kali Yuga, that's all it takes to make someone feel that their life is good enough. The food was good today. The tongue is so strong, actually. The tongue is so strong. So what do we do? How do we check the force of the tongue? What's a way to engage it in a way that can make it happy?
Chanting Mahamantra?
That's one way. Sure, yes. Eating prasad. Eating that which you only first offer to the Lord. That's the That's the system. Actually, in third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that's the exact system that Krishna says. If we do anything else, if we don't offer our food first in sacrifice, what does he say we eat instead? Yeah, we eat sin. That's unfortunately, that's Krishna's words. That's not mine. But this is what he says we do. So this is the way, and guess what? We'll be happy this way. If we don't, instead of just eating anything and everything, if we first take the time and we offer the food in prayer and gratitude, it sets a different consciousness for the exchange. And you could even pray, thank you so much for this prasadam, for this mercy. I feel so fortunate to be able to eat it. And, please, let me use this body in your service. It's a completely different exchange rather than just like, ooh, this, and just inhaling. But trust me, more than anyone, that is my biggest crutch. The sense of the tongue to want to eat. And I have generational traumas of just this type of thing coming generationally, family. This is the most difficult thing. And then Udarapastha Vegam. Udara is the belly, feeling of the belly. And then apastha is the genital, or the lower parts of the body. Now, because there's kids in the room, I'll leave a little bit for the imagination, and I'll speak a bit cryptically. But this is the foundational force, the thing that often many people are doing so many things in the name of trying to find this type of pleasure. But Krishna is saying this is not what gives us happiness, it actually gives us misery. Am I the only one who's ever experienced a heartbreak? No. Sohan, you ever experienced a heartbreak?
Yes,
Yes. Is it fun?
no, it's not.
But at the time when you were first associating with that person, it was fun, right? Yeah, it seemed nice. This is going to give me all kinds of happiness. But what did it give instead?
Not a good experience.
Like the most heart-wrenching suffering that you could ever imagine, right?
For that.
Nothing worse, nothing I've ever experienced in this world is worse. I've gotten hit, I've gotten all kinds of beaten, no problem. But like, to get your heart broken apart, man, that's brutal. It is the worst thing in this world. But it seems so good at first. This is going to make me happiness, give me happiness. This is giving me so much happiness at the time. But if we don't know how to use this thing, so okay, well, how do we control that? What's the solution to happiness? You have two options.
Love Krishna?
Well, yes, but that's like the foundation behind all of them. But ultimately, okay, let's just say that the attraction is there. You get married. I was talking to two people about marriage yesterday. And marriage isn't just man and woman coming together and saying, I'm committing myself to you. What was a marriage always in every religion? Why is marriage a religious sacrament or a religious, rite? Why do all religions have marriage? What's the point of marriage?
Joint commitment to God?
Yeah, it's two people coming together to serve God. It's not two people coming together to serve each other's senses. That's not marriage. There's a reason marriage was a religious rite. Yes, the governments of the countries, they took over, oh yes, marriage, legally married, all this thing and the other. But that's not actually marriage. Marriage is a religious sacrament. It's two people coming together to serve God. And if that's forgotten, then it's no surprise that a lot of the marriages don't work out. And then there's all kinds of heartbreak and there's all kinds of problems. So this is ultimately what we need to come to. We need to serve God, and if two people come together and serve God, and then guess what? When they get together long enough, probably children will come. But then if the children come, you raise them to serve God. This is the proper use. This is a skillful use. Bhaktisiddhanta, he was a sannyasi. He was a lifelong celibate. He never ever considered anything other than celibacy. But he's famously quoted, he's like, I'm prepared to have sex hundreds of times if I find that by doing that I can best serve Krishna. So, if two people come together in marriage and they use that urge to have a child who can actually be raised to serve the Lord, this is a perfect use. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, his son was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, what he did was amazing. But he came through Bhaktivinoda Thakur's skillfully using that urge in yoga. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was able to die very happily. He was able to die extremely happily, knowing that he raised such a son as Bhaktisiddhanta. So this is another way you can be happy this way. And then if you do this, actually, not only will you be happy, but then you could actually, in this verse, it said you become a Swami, a Goswami, and you can actually instruct people all over the world. If you can actually fully control yourself and become fully self-realized and happy, you can help the whole world. So this is kind of, this is the formula. I will stop here, I think. Maybe I can read what happens next. It says, one whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and is illumined within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. And then it goes on to describe such a person. We think, one more quiz question. Is happiness inside or outside? Meaning, do you get happiness from things that you acquire outside of yourself, or is it something that you can acquire within? Everyone is saying within, but why do we search outside so much?
Ignorance.
Yes, that's very nice, Peter.
Desire.
Yes, we have so many desires. But let's just say we actually realized that happiness was within, we would have the desire to go within, would we not? But the problem is we don't actually realize. It just, when someone says it and it's like, yeah, it's got to be within. But if we really evaluate how we seek happiness, we don't look within. We said, oh, it's the next business deal over here, or it's the next this thing, or oh, this cosmetic is over here, this will make me look how I want to look, or maybe it's this weight loss plan over here, or this, that, and the other thing. We're always looking. But it's something to be found within. Interestingly enough, Jesus, what does he said? Where is the kingdom of God located? You remember? Ben, you know? Within. The kingdom of God is within. You can find Krishna there, you can find happiness there. Because he is Rama. Rama means the source of all pleasure, the source of all happiness. So this is the happiness formula. Go within, find your happiness. The one holding it is the supreme source from which you even exist from. And don't get so fixated on searching for happiness outside, in other things, in the dualism of this world. Find the happiness in the one from which you come from. And that's why we chant Hare Krishna. That's why we have a spiritual process. That's why every religion exists, is because they're trying to understand and learn to serve and love that one. So any questions? It's 1:08, so I'll end right here. Yes, Caius.
I actually have two questions.
Let's start with one.
My first question is, why is every religion, like most of them, revolve around something big, like a god or the Big Bang or that sort of thing? Why does
Yes.
it always revolve around something big?
Well, because if you look at this whole cosmic manifestation, and this is just one little part of the cosmic manifestation, you see it's quite big, is it not?
Fair.
What do modern scientists say? How big is the universe?
Light years.
Well, even beyond light years. What do they say? They use a word. It starts with an I. The symbols in Sideways 8. Yes, Urgent. It's infinite. They say it's infinite. You know how big infinite is? Infinitely big. So when something's infinitely big, when you try to measure such a thing, it would require an infinitely powerful type of controller or designer to create such a thing. They say, modern science says that, what is it? Genetics are like the code book for the human being. This is their words. They're saying the modern genome is like the code book for the human being's DNA. I don't know about you, but what type of someone who has to be conscious has to write a code book. Code books usually don't just naturally occur, is it not? Yes. So this is why they put a personality behind all of the intricacies of this infinite creation, and then actually when you take it really deep, it's more infinite than we could even imagine. It's very, very, very big. So maybe that would be a clue as to why all religions are trying to put such a grand or attribute such a grand nature to the object of their worship, because it is grand. It's so grand what we're a part of. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. We'll give someone else a chance, and then if not, your second question can be asked. Does anyone else have a question or a comment or anything? You're all enlightened? How about our other? We have Urjan, and what? Remind me your name again? Kabir. You guys have any questions? No? Alright, Caius, your second question.
My second question is, how do we not know that, like, the telephone effect went on with the Bhagavad Gita? Like, things have been misinterpreted over the years.
Yes, this is a good question.
Yes,
Yes, this is... Okay, so because there's actually a defense mechanism against that, and it's what's called the parampara. And there are those who their only job is to preserve what they heard exactly as they heard it, and to make sure the next, at least one person beyond them, gets the message exactly as they heard it. So, for instance, if you look in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, there's actually a parampara listed, meaning there's a telephone line, but the line it's supposed to remain unbroken. Like if we were to play telephone in this room, because we're not really of this skilled nature and we're not able to perform this job very nicely, by the end of the telephone at this room, we would find that the message gets completely muddled. Like if I whisper into Mukunda's ear and he goes to Meghna and then we go snake it back to you, you're going to get a different message, likely, unless I make it really easy, than what I said. It's likely, which is why you asked the question. But these special types of personalities, only swamis who are fully controlled in senses, they're the only ones who are qualified for the job. So their job is to exactly transmit the message exactly as it is. And that's why you see, even in many time, place, and circumstances, even Jesus, when he said, the Jewish hierarchy at the time, they were saying that, well, how come you're changing the law, all this thing, they were complaining against him. He's like, I've not come to change the law. What did he say he was going to do?
Fulfill it.
He was going to fulfill the law. He wasn't interested in changing the law. So like that, but only a very skilled type of person can see the continuation. So, how do we trust? How do we trust? Well, one, you should see the Bhagavad Gita. For instance, you could read the Bhagavad Gita to perform an experiment, right? If we have, you know the scientific method? You ever heard of the scientific method?
Nope.
Or do you like science?
He's heard of it.
So just a quiz about science. Science has a process on how you perform science. And the first thing is you have to observe phenomena. So you see, okay, this is how the world is. Okay, this is how I observe it. So then you form a hypothesis about what the world is, and then you test it. And then a lot of times you'll have trial and error and you realize that your hypotheses are wrong many times. But then you'll know, well, it's definitely not like this and it's more like this. I observe this. So then you do trial and error and you do science this way. So our hypothesis is saying Krishna is giving a very, very high teaching here that will make everyone happy. So if you observe it and then you see the hypothesis, then what's the next thing you should do?
Test it.
Test it. Yes, very good. Here is a scientist. So then you would test it. And then once you test it, you could say, oh, it's not working or it's working. Or maybe you can take your results and you say you bring them to some other people who are testing it. So, hey, I got this weird result. Did you get that result? And we could compare. And then we can make a scientific analysis and try and draw conclusions. Right? This is science. You've learned this in school before?
From school, but
Did you teach this to him?
Yeah, but he often doesn't listen.
That's okay. So now you have to listen more. But then you can go back to this schooling of what science is, and you perform science. This isn't like many people think that religions aren't science. They're like some woo-woo process or only based on faith. But actually, Krishna, he says of all sciences, do you know what he is? The topmost science is? He says it's the science of yoga. The connecting to the self. It's a science. It's an art. It's not just like some crazy fairy tale process. It's a science. And only people who can follow the process can actually get the result. So you have to test it. Does that make sense? Yes. That's the way. You're seeing observations and you're saying, oh, this religion's like that or this religion's like that. Now you should test some of the processes. And then you can get a better idea if this works for you or not. Yes? Understood. Yes, very thoughtful questions. Actually, Caius, you missed last Sunday, but we talked about the 3 ways to get mercy. Is you would first approach someone who has more spiritual knowledge than you. Ideally, if you have a full-blown spiritual master. And then you would become very humble before them, and then you would ask questions. That's actually the number one thing that a person would do if they want mercy in their life. They would do what's called pariprashnena. It's mentioned in 434 of the Bhagavad Gita. And then after that, then they would render service. And that's the way to get mercy. Become humble before someone a little bit more spiritually advanced or a lot more spiritually advanced. Ask questions and then render service. And in this way you get mercy. There's no other way to mercy, but this is Krishna's process. So you're very actually good at this science. So I give you a lot of credit because I was not doing this thing at your age. So I think we'll end here. Mukund, are we doing an arati? Yes, so Mukunda's doing an arati. You probably want to stand. Michael, are you available? Michael's going to lead kirtan, and then we'll have prasadam together. So thank you so much. I wish you guys all kinds of happiness. Don't do the unhappiness formula. Meghna, please don't fall. And yes, thank you for joining online.